All units, please respond. We got a 7467. Two idiots spilling the tea about their neighbors.
Welcome to episode 146.
From Playboy to Beirut and beyond.
There goes the neighborhood.
Hey, multifaceted bougie crew and superficial CRN trolls. Shout out to our bougie crew in Massachusetts and in Delray Beach.
Yes, our own hood coming in hot with
Yes.
the downloads. Thank you guys. Got a question, a comment, or a crazy rich neighbor story? Hit us up at 239-300-7276.
And don't forget that full episodes are available on our YouTube channel. Be sure to hit the like, smash that subscribe button to never miss an episode.
And if you'd like to sponsor our show, send us an email at info@crazyrichneighbors.com to inquire about opportunities. And a big thank you to our sponsor, Podcast Junkies, here in Boca Raton.
So today's very special guest is Juliette Watt, whose life reads very much like an epic movie script. From soaring the skies as a top-tier ATP pilot and master flight instructor to her amazingly glamorous days as a Playboy bunny, Juliette's journey is nothing short of extraordinary. But there's more to her than the sparkle of showbiz, y'all.
Yes, she's in fact an Emmy-nominated soap opera writer for ABC and a two-time Writers Guild Award winner, as well as a TEDx speaker. And in all of her spare time, Juliette champions animal rights, dedicating years to the Best Friends Animal Society. And today we're going to be talking about her fascinating memoir, In Between the Magic, My Life from Playboy Club to Beirut and Beyond. It's an enthralling journey through the swinging 60s London, packed with celeb encounters, and you're going to love Juliette's fierce spirit.
Welcome, Juliette.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi. Thank you for having me.
Oh, I was so looking forward to talking to you. I'm so
too.
fascinated by your life story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
So we'll jump right in. Okay, so according to your book, you had, you had a bit of a tumultuous childhood, which you triumphed over. Can you share some of your most vivid memories of your early years in London in the 1960s?
Yeah, absolutely. They sort of went up and down because my mother, as you have probably read, was an extremely difficult, narcissistic woman who was sort of glued to me. So there was that side of my childhood that was difficult and painful and unpleasant. My dad died when I was 10, so it was just me and mother, and she didn't like me very much. Sort of, I was, she had no idea what to do with me, and she herself was mentally ill. But back in the 60s, who knew, and what did you do? Especially in England, you never asked help. I mean, you just didn't do that. That wasn't done. So I lived with this very unstable woman. So I counteracted it by, going and having fun. And it wasn't hard. I mean, I think London in the 60s has got to be one of the greatest places of all time. It was the Beatles, it was Carnaby Street, and we were constantly out and about. And it was very safe there as well. I mean, there wasn't, I expect it was the same here in America in the 60s. I mean, you just didn't feel, oh my God, somebody's going to shoot up a school. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah. And so celebrities could walk about with no bodyguards or anything. We had all sorts of rock stars wandering around from club to club that we would all hang out with. And it was just great. I mean, I knew quite a few of them, and it never crossed my mind that they were like huge famous stars. They were just nice people. Jimi Hendrix was one of the nicest guys I've ever met.
Oh
Just
my gosh.
really quiet, very, very, very bright man. And unfortunately, drugs were in the way, as were most of them. But yeah, it was sensational. We would go out at night, a group of us, girls, at 2:00 in the morning. There we were in our sort of party frocks, completely and absolutely safe.
Wow.
Never worried about anything. I didn't realize it at the time. It was extraordinary.
So your mother was okay with you being out that late?
No,
Did you sneak out the window?
Since she was clingy and all.
No, I didn't actually. I was what? I was 16, 17, and I would be like, yeah, see you later. And she would say, don't be late. And I would go, okay. And of course, I had a plethora of excuses, the bus, the train. I mean, everything was like a good excuse, you know. And the thing about my mother was she was very, 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 very mean about that. She did not like me having a good time. Because she wasn't having a good time. She was very, very depressed. And so when I went out and met people, you know, like Cat Stevens, like all these guys, she hated it.
I bet.
Because I was happy. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So,
Was
yeah,
she
I was-
jealous of you, do you think, of your joy?
yes.
Oh,
And youth, probably.
yeah, yeah.
That's actually a very good way of putting it. Yes. She was racked with jealousy because I would find joy in everything I possibly could. And I was determined, as young as I was, not to be like her, you know. So I had lots of friends, and it was great, but it was very hard coming home at night to a really dark, cold house and just an angry woman in there, you know. I'd worked out which stairs on the staircase creaked.
Oh, wow.
It was a survival tactic. You had to. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, because I would see the light on underneath her bedroom door,
Yeah.
and it was, my heart used to race. I mean, I was terrified of her, which in those days most people were terrified of their parents.
Right.
And I'm not like, hey.
It's very interesting because you sought out joy and happiness to counterbalance what your mother put you through, but that very joy is what then kept the cycle of her being hostile and jealous of you. You know what I'm saying? So it was like an unending feedback loop.
Absolutely. And there was nothing I could do. And I really didn't. I mean, that's a very sage, you know, understanding of it. But back in the 60s, we did not have the understanding of mental health.
Right.
We're just even getting to it now.
Right.
And look where we are in time. Yeah. And there was no discussion about mental health. And as I said in the book, if you were considered like a little bit off, they sent you to what was actually called an asylum.
Oh, yes.
Right? Yeah. Where the psychiatrists were that would put you in a room, close the door, and there would be, you know, frontal lobotomies, electrotherapy, and all that stuff to calm you down. And very, very, very potent drugs in those days. I mean,
lithium, right? I think lithium.
Lithium was a very popular one. Yes. Yeah. So if you needed help, there was nowhere to go. And my mother didn't realize that she could get help because it didn't exist.
Right.
Do you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Really, really, yeah.
But she would have had to realize that she has a problem too,
and
right?
That's just it. People who tend to be like your mother usually think everyone else has the problem.
Absolutely. And everybody else is attacking them.
Right.
And that's kind of the narcissistic side of it. You know, everything is everybody else.
Correct.
It's very difficult, very, very difficult. But, you know, I was stuck in this bubble with her for 40 plus years.
Good grief. You did your time. Well, let's switch gears. So how did you make your way to the Playboy Club?
Well, Mother got us in a position where we had no money and we were about to be evicted onto the streets in London.
Jeez.
And in those days, there was debtor's prison. So they would have evicted us onto the streets. My mother would have gone to prison.
Oh, wow.
I was by then 17, so I would have been on my own. So I decided, and I always used to fix the problems. You know, I said, okay, this is not going to happen. I am not going to be homeless in England in the winter. That ain't happening. So I looked in the newspaper. I thought, what's the highest paying job in London? And at that time, it was a bunny at the Playboy Club. And I said, well, that's where I'm going. And I said to Mother, I'm going to go and look for a job at the Playboy Club, but I have to be 17. At that time, I was 16.
Oh, wow. You're a baby.
So young?
I know.
Well, I was against the law because you could not be in a casino with alcohol. I was 17. So Mother, she would have these moments of brilliance. Mother said, we're going to fix it. In those days, had old-fashioned birth certificates that had been hand typed on a typewriter. So my
Oh.
mother got my birth certificate. She took a very sharp razor blade. She scratched very gently the date and changed it, then ran it through an old-fashioned photocopier, which you had to go down the street to where they sold newspapers. And
I'm shocked.
no, I had a photocopy that looked brilliant, so I took that with me.
I'm so surprised that she allowed that. I would have thought she would have been like, no.
She wasn't your typical nurturing mother.
Oh my goodness.
Well, you have to understand, my mother, the best times of my mother's life, quote, was during the war.
Oh my
So-
God, that says a lot.
But what is that? That
Soldiers.
It keeps you at a height of crisis.
Oh, yes.
It's like a drug.
And
you know what I'm
chaos. Yeah, narcissists love chaos.
Ah.
chaos, got to get it done. Everybody's depending on me. And of course, I think a lot of Vietnam vets come home with that come down from the battlefield, basically up here the entire time. So mother loved this. We were breaking the law. This was right up her alley. We were in crisis.
Right.
So she had these moments, but we
Okay.
had to be in crisis for her to be a pleasant person. So,
Yep.
was
That
a
makes
bit-
a lot of sense.
So I went to the Playboy and I got the job, and I became a casino dealer.
Wow.
And
At 16.
Wow.
So what
Yes.
was that like for you? What was your typical day like?
hard because my math is non-existent. And
Oh,
as I was,
no.
oh my God, as I was going through the training, I couldn't do it. I was dealing roulette and
Oh
21.
no.
And if you've ever seen roulette dealt, it's fast.
Yeah, it is.
It's fast. Everybody puts their chips down and you have to spread it out and know what the payouts are immediately, because the amount of times you spin the wheel is the amount of money the club makes.
Right.
So I had to learn this and I couldn't. I just couldn't. It wasn't happening until the guy teaching us, he came up to me one day and we were 4 days away from the big guys coming to watch us because we had to deal a game in 5 minutes. 5 minutes we had to deal, spin the wheel, sort the chips out, make the payouts. 5 minutes. Well, I wasn't even at 3 hours, let alone 5 minutes. So he came up to me and he said, "You can't do this, can you?" And I said, "Nope, I cannot." And he said, "Let me show you." And he put the chips down in a pattern. He said, "That pattern is 103. This pattern is 69.
Oh.
So he showed me patterns.
So you're a
Well,
visual kind of person.
So I learned all the patterns and I became one of the best dealers in the club. I became the one they asked for when somebody was winning too much money.
Oh, wow.
Good for you.
Yes, congrats.
So you started your triumph at an early age.
Yes.
You know?
I started the realization, if you are determined, you can do anything.
And you have. You've done everything.
Yeah, but all the odds were against me.
Were you the
All of-
youngest? Were you the youngest in the club?
I was illegal.
I know, but were you alone or were there other little forgers?
There was a 6-year-old
No.
bartender.
I know. Well, it was
No,
a 15-year-old.
No, darling, I was totally alone.
Oh my
goodness.
God. Did you
It's great.
befriend the other bunnies? Or were you?
Oh, they loved me.
Aw.
Nobody could give a damn. Who cared? No, I was fun. They were fun. We worked so hard, you guys. We were working for 8 hours a night a day in 3 to 4 inch stiletto heels.
Oh, stockings and the cute little bunny ears and the
Bodysuit.
bodysuit.
Cute little bunny ears. They may be put on with 100,000 hair grips that ripped your head.
Oh.
Costume we had to wear was like a prison
Corset,
around.
right? Very tight.
Well, you had to have a 24-inch waist. And the seamstress that used to put you in this costume every night, she used to stand with her feet against the wall and she would like drawstring you into it
Wow.
to your waist. And
Oh
if
my
it wasn't
God.
24 inches, you could barely breathe. I mean, I used to breathe from my chest.
Right.
Ow.
Yeah.
No
Oh my
fun, darling.
God.
Oh,
No fun.
gosh.
No. Yeah.
So, how did you balance school and working such long hours?
Oh, I'd left school at 15. I
Oh.
had to. I had to go to work.
Wow.
I
Okay.
could, and I wasn't learning much either.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was learning
You learned
nothing.
math at the casino.
Yes.
Exactly. But you see, back in the 60s, I don't know about here, school was dreadfully dry and boring. You didn't learn anything interesting whatsoever. And in math, it was just Pythagoras' silly theorem and all that.
Who
stuff.
cares?
You didn't, like when I learned to fly an airplane.
Oh, you're skipping
that's all.
ahead because I'm so fascinated
I
by
know.
this. How do
That's
you
all.
learn if you can't do math? How do you
Well,
learn how to fly
she
an
did
airplane?
do math. She learned it.
I guess the training at the roulette table helped you.
Both the training at the roulette wheel and flying an airplane made sense.
Okay.
I understood. If you do this and you calculate this, your plane will fly from this point to this point.
Sure.
Made sense.
Right.
Math that we learned in school, triangles and algebra, made no sense to me.
Right.
I didn't care about it. I couldn't give a damn about it. So when you don't care about something, you do not do it well.
Correct. I felt the
Sense?
same way about all that math in school as too. So
Right.
boring. And do I ever
Right.
use it in my daily life?
No.
No, exactly.
Now,
and
if
I
they
hear-
would have said, like, now pretend you're in Gucci, kids,
oh.
okay? And this $1,000 bracelet is 25% off. How much does
Calculate
it
it.
cost? Then I could have probably been interested.
Rather than fruit, right? Or
Totally. Absolutely. There's a point to that question.
It's a life skill.
yes.
Indeed. That's very well put. Yes.
So then you moved to LA. How did you get into Hugh Hefner's inner circle?
Well, before I moved to LA, after I had been to Beirut.
Oh,
this
okay.
big
Well,
piece
do you want to do that in chronological order? Is that better?
probably would make more sense.
Okay, so
because
let's
when
talk
anybody
about
reads-
your
Yeah.
Beirut experience.
We're very curious.
Oh, it's fascinating.
How did you end up in Beirut?
well, once again, we were penniless and we actually got evicted.
Oh,
actually-
no.
Yes.
Did
in
you
the
not
middle-
earn good money in tips at the
Yes, Mother
club?
lost it.
It wasn't
Mother lost
enough.
Yeah, mother, I don't know where it went, darling. I have
Oh.
no idea where it went. She was just, she was a housewife. She'd been a housewife with my father, who was Turkish, who never let her do anything that required brain work. So she knew how to run a household and go to parties. She didn't know anything about paying the bills, nothing. So consequently, she was one big mess. So we did get evicted, and she decided, my father was Turkish, she decided that we were going to go to Turkey. We were going to go live there. This is ridiculous. So we got our car that was about 150 years old and everything wrong with it. And she said, we're driving there from England. And we got as far as, I think it was Belgium. And when the car started making funny sounds, so we found somebody to make it unfunny sounds. And he said, but you're not going to get very far on this thing. It was an old Ford. So we got as far as the middle of Belgrade and the car actually blew up.
Oh, my God.
No.
Yeah, it blew up. And these, of course, are communist days. This is when, of course, it was all communist.
Oh, my God.
Yugoslavia was Yugoslavia, and now it's a bunch of other countries.
What was scarier, your mother or the communists?
Communists? Oh, yeah. Yeah, because it was very serious in those days. The rules were, if you broke down in a car on the side of the road in Bulgaria, Yugoslavia, anywhere that was a communist country, you had to get out of your car and start walking. Well, we broke down at 2:00 in the morning.
Oh, my God.
Anywhere. So my mother looked at me, panic stricken. What are we going to do? And I said, well, we'll wait till the morning and we'll figure it out then. So in the morning, and this is another thing, life is very interesting because here we are literally in the middle of nowhere. I mean, we're in the middle of the wilds of Montana, basically.
Right.
And the light comes up and there's a Volkswagen parked, I don't know, 100 yards away from us. And mother said, you go talk to him, because we could see there was somebody in there. And I'm like, oh, okay, fine, I'll go get shot.
Jesus. So
Right?
mother.
Thanks,
So I
Mom.
go up to
Yeah.
I go up to this Volkswagen thinking, well, this is a pretty sad way to die, And,
Oh, no.
right? And the guy wound his window down, and he happened to be a worker that had to take a nap. And so everybody spoke German in those days as well as Yugoslavian. And so he took us and all our baggage, drove us back into Belgrade. First thing we did was we went to the railway station where they had a big bar outside. Everybody sat outside on tables and we drank Slivovich, which is Russian brandy.
Mm.
7 o'clock in the morning. So by 9 o'clock, we're wasted.
And your mom too had a buzz?
Again, think about it, girls. We were in crisis.
Right.
Okay. Oh, so she loved it.
She's at her
That was-
best, and
God, so
Yeah.
weird.
And here's me thinking of we're going to get stuck in a gulag prison. I mean,
She's
I'm
freaking
thriving,
lately.
and she's thriving.
living her best life.
living her best. She was back in the war, darling. Back in the war.
Oh,
You know what I'm saying? And so we managed to squeeze out of that. It's all in the book. It's quite a lengthy story. And that we got to Istanbul. And well, what am I going to do in Istanbul? So after about a year of living with mother in misery in Istanbul,
Ugh.
again with no money,
Right.
we lived in an apartment that we barely paid for. She started teaching English at the French consulate. And I said, well, I've had enough of this. So I went to Beirut.
Anything's
and-
better.
oh, wow.
And
So,
now,
yes.
what year is
Oh.
this?
71.
Oh, so
And-
you were only 17.
No,
Or
not
what?
at 70. I was 20.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
So, and basically, I just went to Beirut. I had a couple of girlfriends there working in clubs and stuff, and got myself an apartment for like $100 a month.
Nice.
Ensconced myself. I got a job as a cabaret singer.
Oh.
I've been doing that quite a bit back in England, and that's how I earned a bit of a living after the Playboy Club. And then, basically, didn't come back. That did not make her happy. So what did she do? She decided she'd come visit, and she found a bus that went from Beirut to Istanbul, from Istanbul to
Oh.
Beirut. A bus that took
Wow.
11 hours.
Oof.
So everybody on the bus brought alcohol. So by the time she got to Beirut, she was absolutely drunk as a skunk, happier than she'd ever been. So she would
Unbelievable.
visit on the bus.
How
Loved-
often though?
Oh, too often.
Oh. And then she would stay the weekend, the week?
She'd go stay someplace else. She'd find
Okay.
Oh,
herself
thank God.
really. And then pretty much then the war came.
Mhm.
And I don't know if you know much about what happened in 72. It was pretty bad. All of a sudden, all the joy, all the wonderfulness of that country was ending. It ended because the Palestinians that lived there, basically as refugees, started shooting at Israel. And it's so ironic, girls,
Right.
because all this stuff going on now in Israel
Mhm.
began
Same.
then,
Right.
right? And then it became civil war. Now I'm still there singing in nightclubs because I've got a little motor scooter and I'm toddling around, and they used to like artists, nobody was shooting at me. So mother used to still come and visit in the war.
Well, yeah, that's her prime time, so why
I
not?
know.
It's game
And so-
on.
Yeah, so I had to get out eventually, of course, because I was going to get killed. There was no two ways. So I got out on the floor of a taxi cab that took me to the airport on the one day that it happened to be open, because it would open randomly to get the
Ah.
foreigners out. And I managed to get on a TWA plane back to London.
And you
But
left
everybody-
mom there?
No. Mom, I wish. No. Mom this time was gone back to Istanbul. And so now understand, it was really, really, really hard to converse with people, because to make a phone call internationally was impossible.
Right.
You couldn't do it in a phone box, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I sent her a letter, which got there pretty fast. I'm gone home. I might die here, so I'm going. And she, on one of her last visits, had left her watch at a jeweler's to be repaired. She said, well, I'm coming back to get my watch. I said, no, you don't seem to understand. There's civil war here, darling.
She's nuts.
She didn't. I got home to London. I was with my grandmother, who was evil, but I was with my grandmother, and my mother got on the bus, went back to Beirut to get her damn watch.
Ay, ay, ay.
She called me, and I could hear the bombs in the background. She was drinking her cocktail, having a ball.
Oh,
She was
my
staying with some friend who I
goodness.
have no idea where she was staying.
As long as she wasn't your problem.
Yep.
Not of that.
How did you start flying?
So my father was a pilot and engineer on aircrafts, and it's always been in my blood. It's always something I've absolutely adored. And when I got married for the second time, we were living in New Jersey, and I had just finished working at soap operas, and I was done with that. And I thought, well, now what am I going to do? And we were on our honeymoon, and I saw we were in Jamaica, and I saw these little airplanes flying from Montego Bay to all the little different areas of Jamaica. And I thought, I'm going to do that. I like the idea of that. So when I got back to Jersey, we lived right on the shore, and I got back to Jersey, and I went down to our local airport, and I said, so I want to be a pilot, but I want to be the best pilot I can possibly be. I want to get all the licenses.
Wow.
And they said, good place to start. And it was really hard because, again, it was all math.
Oy,
You
oy,
know,
oy.
and I had great trouble learning how to land an airplane. And I had some amazing people help me, to which I become one of the best people to land an airplane in wind that was hellacious. And so my main mission was rescuing animals. So when we went to live in Utah and work for Best Friends, that was my mission, because we got there a couple years before Hurricane Katrina.
Mhm.
So me and my airplane went down to New Orleans with Best Friends staff, and we set up a little rescue place in Macomb, Mississippi, which is just across from New Orleans. And I was there for a year, just flying animals all over the place.
You saved like 6,000 animals, right?
Best
That's
Friends,
amazing. Props to you.
yes. Well, the problem is 250,000 animals were displaced.
Oh, no.
And the other problem is nobody came to get them.
Oh, no.
Because, as you know, all the families were basically transported to Houston and all these other towns where nobody came back for their
Right.
dogs. And they didn't.
My dog is like my baby. There is
Oh.
no way I would die with my dog rather than desert my dog.
So cruel.
So cruel. Heartbreaking.
Yes. Yeah. Well, do you remember Katrina, you guys?
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, it was devastating.
Oh my gosh, it was terrible. And yeah, all the animals got left behind. And if you are an animal person, we were on the mission. I mean, it was, the best we could do was 6,000. There were, of course, other people there, other organizations doing rescue and stuff. So I think we got, they got a good amount, but not nearly enough.
Oh,
And
well,
plus a lot of them died as well. I mean, a lot of them died in that water.
you did an admirable thing.
Thank you. Yes, it was one of
Absolutely.
the greatest years of my life. You really
Aw.
felt like you were giving back.
Absolutely.
It was awesome.
Aw. Okay, let's take a little commercial break, and then after the break, I want to pick your brain about your time in Los Angeles and with Playboy, if that's okay.
Got it.
Welcome back to Crazy Rich Neighbors.
Yes, indeed. Okay, so now take us on your journey. How did you end up going to Los Angeles and then becoming part of Hefner's inner circle?
I had basically had enough of my mother. I couldn't take it one more day.
And how old were you at this point?
I went to LA in 1976, so I was 25.
Okay.
And I went there basically to kind of look around. I stayed there like 4 years. Right? I went to look around and stayed with some friends of a friend in LA. And of course, I was completely illegal. I didn't have working papers or nothing.
Papers
But
don't
again-
stop you.
Oh.
But remember, back in the 70s, this country was very different.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very different. I mean, you could be there illegally and nobody cared,
Right.
But I did manage to acquire a Social Security card, which was very handy.
Yes, indeed.
Yes, indeed. I did that by slightly nefarious means. Never, I
Well,
got
let's just leave that there
Yes.
because you're probably needing to use that number still.
I know.
So basically, it's a perfectly legal card, by the way.
Okay,
Absolutely
good.
came from the Social Security Office, signed by the director.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to spill the tea on how
Was
you
he
got
at
it?
the mansion?
Is the statute of limitations
know,
like,
right?
has passed?
I don't think so, actually, because they
Okay.
but yeah. Anyway, so I was working as a waitress and everything. But now remember, I worked for Playboy in
Right.
London.
Right.
And in those days, Playboy was all about the Playboy family, So the head of Playboy in London had said to me, listen, if you're going to LA, because we were quite good friends, if you're going to LA, call Hefner, because you'll be very welcome there as one of us. And it took me a month. I was terrified. I mean, I don't know about you guys. I hate cold calling people.
Oh, me too.
Right? It scared me to death. And one day I just picked up the phone and called the number, and a very nice lady answered, and I said who I was and everything. She said, oh, super. Come up on Friday for movie night. And so she sent me the
AKA
address.
orgy night.
Every night's orgy night there.
No, here's the deal. No, I didn't see any of it. I mean, did
Good.
you see the show called Secrets of Playboy?
Yes, I did. It was so disturbing.
Do you remember the gal Sandra?
Yes, Sandra Theodore.
She was my roommate for 3 years.
Oh, wow.
Sandra was my roommate. So we met at the mansion. I went up there. I used to go up there on Fridays and Sundays for movie night. I used to think it was lovely. Everybody famous was there, and Sandra and I hit it off. We got along like best friends. And she said, let's get an apartment together. And I wondered why she didn't have one already, because you have to understand, I had no knowledge of this world at all.
Right.
And so I said, oh, groovy, that would be great. So we got an apartment do you know LA at all?
Yes,
you guys?
very well.
Okay. We got an apartment in Westwood.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay.
It was a 3-bedroom, 2-bath apartment for $600 a month.
Oh my gosh. Those
Let's
were the
just go
days.
there,
Yes.
right? It was beautiful. It was a lovely little townhouse, gorgeous.
Oh.
So when we were living together, I was working as a waitress, and we would go up to the mansion every day.
Wow.
And everybody was up there, his cronies, the people, which was like Jimmy Kahn and Bill Cosby, and all those guys were up there. I had no knowledge, none. And I used to see Sandra looking sad sometimes, and would have to leave the apartment, like Hef needs me. And I didn't understand.
Was she his girlfriend at the time, or was he with Barbie?
No. He had broken up with Barbie.
Okay.
Barbie had gone. Sandra was the next one.
Okay.
And she was 20.
Wow.
And she from Bakersfield, California. And she was one of the sweetest, dearest, and still is the most wonderful, wonderful person and the greatest friend. I mean, she took me under, because she knew I knew nothing, and she took me under her wing and really made sure that everything was okay. If I didn't have quite enough money to pay the rent that month, she said, I got you, don't worry. She got furniture from Hef's house, from the mansion, to put in my bedroom so I'd have a bed, because I didn't have a bed or anything. And I went up there every day, evenings, parties, everything. I saw nothing. And when we saw, my husband and I, when we saw Secrets of Playboy here, and I'm sitting there with my mouth hanging open, and he said to me, come on, surely you saw this. I said, I didn't. I absolutely didn't. And Sandra and I are still good friends, and I called her up and I said, what in the name, why didn't you talk to me? Why didn't you tell me? She said, I was too afraid. I couldn't tell anyone. And
oh my God.
It was dangerous. I mean, Cosby was doing his awful deeds.
Yes.
Hefner knew all about it. Jimmy Kahn was doing awful deeds.
Well, Hefner allegedly gave women quaaludes, which is right out of the Cosby playbook.
Yes.
Oh yeah. And not only that, he gave them other things. He was despicable, absolutely a despicable human. He had, I can't, and I don't, if you've seen Secrets of Playboy, then you know what I'm talking about.
So dark, almost demonic.
So dark.
But it's amazing that you could go there and you weren't sexually harassed and nothing happened to you, that it was just two tales of two worlds.
Did Sandra protect you?
No, she didn't have to.
Okay.
If you look at the kind of women that Hef had around him, they weren't like me. right? They
Right.
were blonde, innocent, that. But he did have a couple of dark-haired ones that were very, very sweet and very nice. And they were all lovely girls, all of them. And they knew nothing. They all fell in love with this funny-looking man. Sandra was madly in love with him. He was the love of her life.
What?
Yeah.
Or was
Oh,
it the
yes.
money?
No, she was so into him.
No.
But she had to share him,
When you
right?
watch that show, she was.
Well, he informed her how it was going to be. And because she was so in love with him, she went, okay. It's very hard to understand that. You know,
Yeah.
we're going, wait a second, because Hefner would not be interested in either of you girls. You're too smart.
That's okay with me.
Yes.
And the thing, what happened was, and the same thing happened with Cosby. You know, Cosby used to ignore me, pointedly ignore me.
Oh.
And one day I said to somebody, I said, why does Mr. Cosby, you called him Mr. Cosby, because in those days he was the king of television, if you remember.
Yes.
I said, why does Mr. Cosby ignore me? And this person who was an actor, he said to me, oh, darling, he just doesn't like you. But I had no idea who it was. And I think, and this may sound a little nutty, and I think the same thing happened with Hefner. He looked at me, I looked at him, and the reptilian brain that sits right at the back here, we recognized each other. And they looked at me and went, too much trouble, not going there.
Too tough, too
Because-
smart, too independent.
Just too smart. Because if Cosby had done to me what he did to those girls, I'd have had his ass. I would have made it my mission
Yeah.
to get him. Well, the girls didn't because they were so scared. I mean, Playboy used to call them up and threaten them.
And did they have security tailing these girls as well?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, it was awful.
But look how
You know,
long it took, and the Me
Sandra?
Too movement. Look how long it took all of these A-list actresses to come forward to really disclose what happened to them. So could you imagine, like back in the day,
Oh,
probably
well,
unheard of.
Well, yes,
to
because
speak
Playboy
up.
would have taken care of things. They
Ooh,
would not.
like mafia type.
What do you mean by taken care of?
They would have taken care of things. They would have disappeared.
Oh wow,
Oh, it was awful, awful.
that's so
Not like
scary.
today. You know, today that situation could not happen today.
Did you know
It's-
anybody who was taken
Epstein.
care of?
Yeah, a couple that we never saw again.
Oh,
Yeah,
What did they do to?
said no to something Hefner wanted.
wow. He's lucky he died when he did.
He is a dark
Okay,
spirit.
he got spared.
Very much like the Jeffrey Epstein deal.
Correct.
Oh, he was probably even at least.
Well, did he
was
get
what?
spared? Because I believe in an afterlife, and
Hopefully, he's burning somewhere in hell.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, when I saw that show and I called up Sandra and she was sobbing on the phone and kept saying
oh,
to me, I'm so sorry. I said, don't you
Aw.
dare say you're sorry. I'm sorry.
Wow.
I said, I'd have known. She said, that's the problem.
Yeah,
If
you would have probably
no-
reported him to the police.
Oh,
oh,
honey,
the police would come there. The police were in his back
They were
pocket,
they were-
allegedly.
yeah, true.
yes. It was the old days, remember? It was the 70s.
Did he
Right.
financially take it? Was he generous? Did he give her a lot of gifts and money?
Yeah,
She had
Was
to
she on a
earn that.
payroll?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah,
I
she
remember
earned that.
once. I remember once she was so innocent. She was giggling and she grabbed me. We were at the house, right? She said, "Hey, you want to see Hef's bedroom?" And I was like, "No." I said, "Oh, okay."
The
So we
purple
go
velvet,
upstairs.
right? Isn't it velvet?
She had to get her money from Mary, his secretary, her
Mhm.
weekly money. So we went up there and got her money. And she said, "Come on, I'll show you. It's really wild." And I was like, "Oh no, I don't." So we
Germs.
go into this dark blue room and with this humongous circular bed. And the
Oh.
whole wall was full of video screens.
What? Porn Central.
And there was two massive closets that were full of tapes. Because you remember it was the
Oh my goodness.
VHS. And then there was the chair, the thing in the corner of the room, the thing that looked like a dentist gynecologist chair, but
Oh,
kind of went, oh, that's what that is.
oh wow. What a
And
freak.
and she was describing everything to me, and I was horrified. And then she said, You want to see his closet? I'm thinking, oh, dear God, what could be in the closet? So we go into the closet, which was a room, and it was full. All these pulled back doors had all his satin pajamas in every single solitary variation of every color on the rainbow. There must have been 300 or 400 pairs of pajamas, satin.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was wild, man.
Did you
It
go
was
to any of the parties like Midsummer Night or any of
all of them.
what were they like? Take us there, so
Beautiful.
to speak.
Oh, yeah, they were beautiful. I mean, they decorated that house. It looked like a Cinderella castle with fairy lights. The food was amazing. We had everybody was there. There was all sorts of well-known people there. You know, I became friends with Robin Williams there, who was
Oh,
a
I
sweet.
love him.
Aw,
Love him.
God
Love
rest
him.
his soul.
He was completely out of his depth. He went, whoa, where am I? I said, you'll be fine. Hang with me. We'll be good. And, you know, and there was so many people there that were just lovely, lovely people. And then you would get the ones that would come up there that, like Tony Curtis never looked happy.
Mm.
He would sit by himself on the staircase, staring into space. One night I was up there and I was on my way to leave because I would usually leave around midnight when Heff transferred himself and his group to the game room, and that's when it would all start, and that's when I
Oh,
would leave. But I didn't
smart.
leave because it was all starting. But Sandra told me that's when it all started, you know.
Oh my God.
And one night I was leaving and I walked past the dining room and I saw John Belushi in there, and he was all by himself and he had a plate in front of him that was full of cocaine.
Oh my God.
What?
And his head hanging over it.
Oh,
You
no.
and I went in there and I thought, well, that can't be good for him. And I sat down and I said, Mr. Belushi, and maybe it's time to go home.
Yeah.
And he said, John, and then put his head back down in the plate.
Snorting?
There was no more.
He passed out.
Oh, wow.
He didn't. Yeah, I mean, no, he didn't pass. He
Oh,
just
kept
and I
on
thought, well,
snorting. Oh.
and he died, I think, a month later. But what am I going to do? Go next
Sure.
door to Mr. Belushi's in the dining room and he's got cocaine in front of him. What am I?
They'd be like, so what?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, yes, it would have been.
They're like, go away, you little spy. You.
Yes, that's none of your business. Leave him
Mhm,
alone. Blah blah
mhm.
blah. And I wasn't gonna do that. So I left, and I thought, how sad. And that's the thing with being up there. There was a great sadness of all the people that were so desperate to be famous, and they were either on their way up or on their way down or sitting at the top worried that they wouldn't stay there. I
Mhm.
mean, they're in show business. All these folk, they're not leading really happy lives unless they've been real sensible about it, you know. And it's really sad. It's really sad to watch the desperateness.
Like chasing
Very
that
sad.
fame high, you
Right.
know?
So
Mhm.
how is Sandra doing today?
She's doing okay. She lives in California in a little cottage, and she is the most extraordinary artist. She paints furniture in a very sort of Art Deco, almost Willy Wonka kind of way, but so talented.
Cool.
And she's good. She's good. Yeah.
Good.
Uh,
My heart went out to her because,
Oh.
she had that conflict with her daughter on top of everything else. Her daughter didn't realize all the darkness around Heff in the mansion. So then when Sandra came out with it, the daughter at first didn't believe her and didn't want to believe her.
Oh.
And then that was, insult to injury.
Yeah.
But I think they're
And
okay
then-
now, right?
Yeah, well, they're good now because it was hard for Katie. It was Uncle Heff.
Right.
He did nothing but wonderful things for her. So it was very, very difficult to wrap her head around this horror. I mean, it's not like you found out the guy was just not nice. You found out the guy was a monster
Mm-hmm.
and a guy that you've loved and called Uncle Heff,
Yeah.
you know. And it took Katie a long time, but thankfully now they're very close, and I'm thrilled to bits.
Thank
Because
God.
Katie's a super girl. She's so super. Lovely, lovely girl. Yeah.
So, just if we can
How are we
transition
doing
to.
so far?
These are fascinating
You
stories.
are fascinating. I want to just have a cup of coffee with you and just ask you a million questions.
Yes.
That we should hang, right?
I
Yes.
would love to hang
Come
with you.
to Florida.
I'm totally fangirling right now.
Oh, bless
So,
you. Well, that's why I wrote the book. But go ahead. Sorry, you was going to
yeah, I
say?
mean, it's so fascinating. Like, how did you then transition to writing for a soap opera?
Well, I realized that one went nowhere in Los Angeles. If you weren't on the show business track and
Hmm.
ready to blow your brains out on that, you really there was nothing there. There was no future. So I was singing, and I got a job singing for Playboy in their clubs, which kind of got me out. And they gave me I still didn't have a work permit, but they got me a work permit, and to work for them. So that got me to New York to sing in their club in New York. And I thought, oh, this is where I have to live. I absolutely must live here. So I moved there. And I left Sandra behind, and
Thank you.
I regret that a little bit, because had I had any idea, I would have brought her with me. But nevertheless, I moved to New York, and I got married there for the first time to an actor. And kind of didn't really know what to do with myself. I started teaching an exercise class that my friend who worked for Jane Fonda in doing her exercise thing in LA, which was hysterical. I mean, the woman's a maniac. I mean, she is a maniac. But yeah,
My mom
yeah.
had her tapes.
Oh my God, a fanatic. But anyway, so I was doing that, and I was sort of, one of those when in your life you're kind of ambling and you go, what on earth is the point of my existence? So that husband left for another woman.
Oh
That he,
no.
yeah,
What
we
an
were married.
idiot. I mean, you are like the whole
Terrible.
package.
Exactly.
Well, he actually wanted children, and I didn't.
Okay, fair
Okay.
enough.
All
Okay.
right.
And he basically they were both in a show together, and
Ah,
on a Broadway
a
show together.
showmance.
Oh, like
And
Ariana Grande and her
oh,
new
no,
man.
yeah, he kind of met this lovely lady. I mean, and it was the love of his life.
Oh,
He met
wow.
his life, yeah. And it was very, 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 very difficult, but it changed my life. But again, here I am again. I'm no money. So now what do? I've got to find a job that pays the mortgage of my apartment, which was fairly high. This was in 89. And everybody's telling me to get a roommate, which is like a bad word to me.
I
Roommate.
hear ya. Totally.
Don't do roommates.
Yep.
No, not at 40,
Oh,
darling.
heck no.
Oh, that must have been tough.
Not over 30.
Right. So I had been writing plays, and because I love writing, and it was kind of what I did. And I thought to myself, and I was sitting at home watching General Hospital, and I thought, what a ridiculous thing. I can do that. I mean, that's like writing kind of gossip. I can do that.
That was my grandma's favorite soap opera.
Oh, darling.
Yes.
So I decided the one I liked the best was One Life to Live.
Oh.
So, but I didn't really care. Any of them would have been fine. So I took a play that I'd written that I was quite happy with, that was a bit soapy in a sense of lots of relationships and blah, blah, blah. Because I'd also written a play about the Berlin Wall, which I didn't think would be appropriate. Oh, I took this play. I lived on Columbus Avenue and 86th Street, and I marched myself down there. And I put the play in for consideration to be a writer, because they were looking for writers. And after a year, and I was very, very persistent in a polite way, because these people, you have to be persistent yet not desperate.
Yeah.
Well, I was desperate, but I had to hide the desperate and be very politely, hi, just checking in, one of those things. So I became friends with the assistant of the lady I needed to get to. And so I got the job. I don't know how. I have no idea. I think it was, upstairs. I mean, I don't know. But I had no idea how to do the job. I'd never written a television script in my life.
I was just going to ask her, like, how did she learn how to format
I
a
just
script?
love you so
like,
much.
you've been to school. You know how tough it is.
No
You've studied
shit,
this. It's,
I haven't studied Jack. I didn't have to write theater, but this was
she didn't
television.
even have a high school degree. This is amazing.
But look at the life she led.
Well, then I decided, okay, they gave me a test script. And because each writer, don't know if you know how it works, there's a head writer that writes what's called the Bible,
Yes, the show
right?
Bible. Yep.
The show Bible. Then there are the other writers that are called breakdown writers, and they write in textual form each show, where the break is, where the act, and it's acts 1 through 6 for One Life because it's an hour show. And then the script writer turns that into the script that gets handed to the actor. So I was a script writer, not knowing what I was doing.
Was this in
I
the
don't-
80s? The 80s?
Yeah. And no, it was in 91.
Okay.
I was there for 3 years. Yeah, 91. And so one of the writers I made friends with, who was a playwright, so we had a sort of symbiosis there. And I said, I don't know how to do this. And he said, well, you better learn fast. And I said, well, I know that. So he gave me a quick crash course. And each page has to be timed, every single page, because the show has to be 42 minutes long, not 43, not 41. So everything is timed. And you have scenes, you've watched it. There's the A line, B line, C line. And then you have the dramatic pause as the commercial comes on. The look that lasts forever. And I think it's the most stressful I've ever been, but I figured it out. We had a producer that was just a fiend, absolute fiend. And so, yeah, I figured it out and became pretty good at it.
Did you grow to love it?
No,
No.
it was too stressful. Yeah.
Okay.
I loved writing. I love the actual process of getting my breakdown and going, ooh, how do I turn this into a really cool script? Because I wanted it to be a little bit more than that usual soap banter where everything is so ridiculous. People don't behave like that. So I tried, but I got stopped a lot by the head writers who would say, no, this is not theater. This is television for the housewives. Don't go there with that. That's too sophisticated. Nobody will understand it. They would have.
Of
But,
course.
I couldn't be fired. I could not be fired. So I would try and cut it down the middle and trick them into thinking they were reading corny stuff, and they weren't. It was.
So were you responsible for writing the whole episode, or did you have like co-writers?
No. Each one of us, there was 5 script writers. We would each get a day to write. Now, if you were in favor with the producer, you would get 2 days.
Okay.
Okay.
And each script was worth $2,400.
Wow.
That's
good money.
Good money.
Yep.
I'm sure I've watched some of your episodes.
Absolutely.
Because, yeah, Days of Our
Well,
Lives, One Life to Live in General Hospital.
Did you watch One Life?
One Life, General Hospital. Well, whenever I would go to my grandparents' house, and that was my grandma loved her soaps, and those were the 3: General Hospital, Days of Our Lives, and The Young and the Restless.
Okay, well, if you remember, on One Life, there was a time back then where there was a storyline written around the AIDS quilt.
Oh.
Do you recall that at all?
No.
Okay, that's when I was writing.
Okay.
Brian Philippi, you know the actor Ryan?
Yes, he was on there.
He got a start on One Life, and I was writing for him.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh.
That's
Nice kid.
amazing.
What was he? Oh, he was nice? Okay.
He was a young kid,
Yeah.
He was a kid.
I met his ex-wife, and she's not so nice.
Oof. Miss, do you know who I am?
Yeah. Anywho, we are running low on time, but I do want to ask you, yes, but you have to come back. I mean,
Yes.
I'm just obsessed.
I would love to. So I just wanted to mention, a lot of people ask me, why did I write that book? I wrote it on a kind of a serious note. How many people have the mother that I had? I really want. Okay, I wanted people to read that and go, oh my God, that's my mother. She could survive her, so can I.
Yeah. That's sweet.
Yeah, I'm going to get out. And also the fact of all those adventures, they're only survival stories. I wanted to demonstrate to people, if you make up your mind, you can do anything, but you've got to focus. You've got to make up your mind to do it. It has to be a mission. And I really wanted to convey that to people. I'm just an ordinary person. I really, really am. And I wanted people to know, no. If you want to do something, you want to fly an airplane, do it. Just go and do it. That's
that.
I just wanted to
So fearless.
So your work with compassion fatigue,
Mm.
is that an offshoot of growing up with the mother that you grew up with?
Very much so. I wanted to do a TED talk, so I was trying to find a good topic, and I had known a little bit about it, and I found out much more about it, and realized that, wait a second, this they talked about compassion fatigue from caregivers looking after soldiers that had come back from war, nurses that were overworked like COVID time, people that were in the profession of looking after or caregiving, firefighters, EMT workers. But I suddenly realized, and I did some really in-depth research, that if you're looking after a loved one at home and they have dementia or something, you're going through compassion fatigue because you've put your life away
Mm.
and you have basically given up who you are to be something for somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
You've given yourself up. Your identity is gone, is on hold, is just not there anymore.
Right.
And it breaks you. You go into a black hole, you go into burnout, and you become an alcoholic if you don't know what's happening to you. And what I found out was so many women didn't know what was happening to them. Why do I feel like this? Why do I feel I have nothing? I'm worthless.
It's an existential dilemma because of what you said earlier. Who you are goes away.
And to have your mother inflict pain on,
Yes,
you
they're
know, on a
sick.
child, that's like, that's such a hard pill to swallow because you can't
is, but-
fathom that.
But it became quite useful because so many people said to me, well, why didn't you leave when you were older? Well, I never thought about it because she needed me. Well, she was my mother. It was my duty, bada, 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 that, you know? And so basically, I realized that it also affected women who weren't at home, who had a job, who had children, who had to do their job, take care of the kids, look after whomever it is, the spouse, grandma, or whatever. And you're being torn apart. You don't look after yourself anymore. You don't put makeup on every day. You don't take care of yourself. And so I did my TED. Have you seen it by any chance?
No, I'm going to watch it this weekend, though.
Oh, you'll enjoy it. Yes. So, you know, you have to get to a point where you understand that you come 1st. People are horrified. I mean, you come before your children.
You
come
have
before-
to.
If you're not whole,
You
you're
cannot
just
pour
gonna
from
mess
an
them
empty
up.
cup.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
True.
And when I say to people, you come before your children, they're horrified.
Yeah.
Horrified.
Because
And
society tells you that that's selfish.
But women have to like compromise so much, right? It's like you,
Today.
yeah,
Today.
it's
I have
all the
good
time.
friends. Yeah, I have good friends I don't see because so-and-so needs violin lessons. The other one's going to gym. The other one's going to
Yeah.
this and that. I don't
These
see her
kids today
anymore.
are so spoiled.
Oh my God, my mother used to push me out the front door and off you went, you know. But it's a different world today. And so that's why I did the TED. And I'm actually very proud of it. I did it in Fargo, which is the actual one of the higher level TEDs because it's in such a beautiful theater. 3,000 people.
Wow. And she makes it, I mean, you know how hard it is to land a TED Talk? I mean,
You're right.
kudos to you for everything that you've done in your life
Seriously.
and that you're happy, whole, sane.
Oh, bless your hearts. But no, I said, I'm going to do a TED Talk. I'm going to do it within a year.
Gosh, you're like a master manifester.
Totally.
Well, but there's work. I mean,
Yeah.
if you're going to be a master manifester, you better be a master at doing the work.
True.
And the
Correct.
work is intense because when you see it, it's 12 minutes long and every word is memorized. Can you
Wow.
imagine? Oh my God.
for
Yeah, I'm
you.
always fascinated by these TED
Oh my
Talks.
God. It was so difficult to memorize.
I
It was
bet.
like, because I'm not good at memorizing.
How long did you rehearse for?
Well, I rehearsed at home. I did my TED to the dog, to my horses, to my poor husband 100 times. Because you have to do it in different areas. I didn't want to do it in the same place in the house every time. So I would go out into, where my horses are. And I would call a friend and say, can I come over and do my TED? I mean, just that kind of thing. So I'm really proud of it. I think I've got 200 and some odd 80,000 views.
Wow.
You.
Yeah, because no one had ever heard of compassion fatigue. So
Wow.
now,
But it makes sense. It's
Mhm.
logical.
Yes.
Yeah, sure. Sure. It's a very big subject that no one talks about.
Wow.
Nobody, even now, you
Mhm.
know. And so I've had coaching clients from that are amazed at what they're going through. And
Aw.
they're going through the same thing as a soldier coming back from the war, for heaven's sakes.
PTSD. Yeah.
PTSD, exactly.
Yep.
Only it's called secondary vicarious trauma because it's not something you've experienced. You didn't shoot somebody.
Mhm.
You, it's a secondary trauma that's being put on you from outside, but
Mhm.
you're absorbing it as if it were your own. Does that make sense?
It does.
It's too bad she didn't break the cycle. Like you said, your grandmother was tough and not so great, so she probably inherited it from
Oh,
her
yes.
mom.
But you did.
My-
You broke the cycle.
Yes, yeah.
I
Speaking
did,
of
I
like
did.
breaking your karmic cycles, right? Our episode last week
Yep.
touched on karmic cycles and how do you
Oh,
break them.
yes. Well, when you're a child, you know, up until you're 5 years old, it's you're made. Your being, your cellular being is made by everything that's been put in by your parents. So then you're on your own. I mean, to change all of that and until you know how to. I mean, you know, my mother died in 2014, and I thought, oh, good, I'm free. No, I
Mhm.
wasn't, because I'd suppressed everything.
Oh.
You know, I mean, she sent my horse off to be slaughtered without telling me. You know, that kind. I had suppressed it all, and all of a sudden, it all came out, and I'm going through anxiety and depression. I'm like, what is happening? So I went to my therapist and I said, what's happening to me? I'm not me anymore. What the hell is going on? I need to fix this right now.
Mhm.
And I told her my story, and she went, let's say it's really good you're still alive. And
Wow.
and I'm like, what are you talking about? I just had a crummy mother. She said, there's variations of crummy. Yeah,
It's a spectrum disorder.
Mhm.
exactly. Yeah.
Oh, I hate it that we have to wrap.
I'm
We
going to
need a
email
part
you. We're doing
two.
a part 2.
Yes.
You're just too
Let's
fascinating.
do a part 2. Yes. Yes.
I'll-
But if, you
well-
know, if people would, have you got the book there?
We don't.
Do
We
you-
were only sent a digital copy from your publicist.
Okay.
But why don't you tell our Bougie crew how they can reach you if they'd like to be coached and where they can find your fascinating book, In Between the Magic?
This is the book. Thank you for the close up. Oh, I love it. The wrinkles.
Oh,
You
you're-
look
you are so
fantastic.
gorgeous.
Gorgeous.
This is available on Amazon, and it's also available as an Audible. So if you have long drives and everything, this will give you a chuckle on your drives. And it took me about 4 years to write this, but I really, really wanted to share it with folk who are going through difficulties, parent-wise, and just in life. You know, just to show people you can do whatever you set your mind to. You just have to do the work, you know?
Mhm. Well, you are wonderful. Thank you so much, Juliette. And we-
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much for your great questions. And it was so much fun. Yeah, let's do it again.
Absolutely.
more.
Absolutely. Lord have mercy. Oh, I love her so much.
Yeah, that
you know
was
what? Forget
awesome.
about what I was going to talk about for my Bougie Bible. My Bougie Bible obsession is Juliette Watt.
Aw,
I love her.
she's a rock star.
Yes.
I mean, talk about like setting your mind to do something and you just do it. Like whatever she says she's going to do, she just like does it. She manifests
and
it, puts
she's
that
the
work
best
in.
at it too.
Unbelievable.
And
Yeah.
what a life story, from like war in Beirut to the Playboy mansion to being a casino dealer
Oh.
at 16 years old
Unbelievable.
to then flying. I mean, writing on a soap opera. I mean, her
Saving
life.
6,000 animals right after Katrina.
If somebody made up this life story, I wouldn't believe it.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know. It's really motivational.
Absolutely.
And I love a great story in January, you know, when everybody's like gung-ho about their goals and whatnot. Like, she didn't even have a high school degree. Unbelievable. And she killed it.
Yes,
You
ma'am.
know how hard it is to get a TED Talk? Like, I'm blown
Oh.
away by her.
Me too, boo boo.
Fascinated.
Love her.
Yes. So, you guys, my Bougie Bible pick this week is Glossier You. This perfume is called, I think, You, because it really blends so well with your natural pheromones, and it smells super duper unique on every single person. People stop and ask you what it is. It's giving clean girl aesthetic. It's giving vacation vibes. It's just giving fresh and fruity. It has beautiful, bright, sparkling, spicy notes. There's a pink pepper in it, iris, amberette seeds. It's delish. And this size is, usually retails for about $79. And this one here, you can just stick in your pocket if you're going out to wherever, club or whatever, a little tiny little bag one can stick in, so you don't have to walk around with this. But I love it, love it, love it. And it blends very well with other scents. It's a great fragrance to layer on other fragrances.
I couldn't agree more. I have that, and I would second all of the points you made about that.
Yeah.
It's delish.
Totes.
And I think it could be unisex too.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, because of the spicy notes.
Yeah, so like your man can wear it too.
Yeah.
No shame in that
Fits
game.
him. Yeah.
That's it for today, kids. Share this ish with your favorite bad bish.
Subscribe to never miss an episode.
We're on the gram at Crazy Rich Neighbors. We're on Facebook at CRN Podcast. We're even on TikTok at Crazy Rich Neighbors.
Yes. And you guys, if you have to, and remember,
email us
email us. Sorry, my computer froze. It actually just died.
Oh,
I should remember this.
She died, girl.
Hey, okay, you guys. Yeah, okay. If email us at info. And now the light goes out too.
The show's over, kids.
The show's over.
Email us at info@crazyrichneighbors.com. And remember,
if you have to ask who your crazy neighbor is, it's
probably you.
Bye, Bougie Crew.
Bye, Benny Ben Ben.
Bye.
Be good.
Bye.